Directors meeting for PSTA, and the first thing I would like to do is welcome back PSTA Commissioner Ken Welch, and I would ask him to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone who is here, and we will hopefully have a few more folks show up a little later on. I would first of all like to mention that everyone who wishes to speak can have an opportunity to do so. Now's the opportunity for public comment on the consent agenda items or any other topic not on today's agenda. If you would like to speak about any action items, we'll give you opportunity when that item is discussed. In either case, would you please fill out a green card and hand it to Rachel at the front desk here if in fact you have anything you want to discuss. Thank you. Our first order of business is a very happy one. We are happy to recognize PSTA's Bus Operator of the Year, Mr. Milan Rakovic, who has really an amazing story. PSTA's Transportation Director, Jeff Thompson, will introduce Mr. Rakovic to us and provide a short video. Jeff?
Hey, good morning, board members. Nice to be here before you this morning. It's truly my honor and pleasure to introduce Milan Rakovic to you as our 2019 Bus Operator of the Year, as Commissioner Barkley mentioned. I'll play this video for you and you'll hear his story.
My name is Milan. I'm working for PSTA 22 years. Here is my story. I was born in former Yugoslavia. In high school, I picked the school for transportation. After school, I opened a shop in my house. Then I went to military service. In military service, I was the driver actually because I finished my school. I finished military service, come back my home. I started work for bus company till 1992, just when war was starting in Bosnia. I have to move. When war started in Bosnia, I had to leave my home. I tried to just survive and save my family and my life. Like my father, I lost my father the first day he was killed, in the war. And my brother and sisters, my mom was in the prisoner private camps. And lots of families. I was lucky. I was driving the bus, and that's how I saved my life. I was driving from city, from Bosnia to Serbia, brought my wife on the other side. She was pregnant at that moment. And I was applying to many countries, including the United States, to move out of the country as the refugee from the Serbia. Then finally I was working one day, somebody called from American Embassy, looks like go to America. Oh my God, years and years I try go to have the better life. 1997, we left the Serbia and came to Tampa Airport. It was one of the day I will never forget the day. When the door was open, the heat just like hit my face and my wife, my kids, like, oh my God, why is this warm like this? This is so hot, so hot. After a year, I was on way to the beach with my family. I saw the buses. I said, I have to find connection to find that company and try to get the job over there. And they got me for interview. I applied. They said, we can't give you work as the bus driver at this moment because you don't speak the English. Do you understand that? They said, do you understand anything about mechanic or something about that? I said, I'm a professional mechanic. I got certification, I used to own the shop in my country. We'll give him the job, start work as helper mechanic. I started work for PSTA. I came to PSTA with a dream to be bus operator, bus driver, and that was my goal. But I said after 6.5 years, this is his time. I feel now is time. I want to switch position and start work as bus driver. And I got very good relation with my passengers. I keep them as my really friends and my almost like my family, because we are every day see each other. The PSTA is mostly the place when I grow up, and that's like my second home. And I thank everybody who helped me and understood me that time when I came. They didn't speak English at all, but the people was so nice. Thanks everybody. My name is Milan. I'm the driver of the year. Here is my story.
I'd like to invite Milan up to say a few words. Milan.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
My name is Milan Arakovic. I'm working for PSTA 22 years. I'm the bus operator. That's my honor to be here this morning and be the driver of the year. It's my pleasure. Thank you, everybody. I brought this morning my son, my wife, and my other kid, my daughter. They was working. They couldn't make it, come to the meeting. I'm sorry about that. But that's my big honor to be standing here and look at you all. And thank you for your support, everybody. When I came here, I changed my life for 360 degrees. And thanks PSTA, all my co-workers, my bosses. Thank you anybody for support me from 1997 to 2020. That's not was easy to change the life. And I speak a language which is actually English. I never spoke. It's right now actually my heart shaking from my foot to my eyes. That's big my honor, and I got very good time all these years, and I'm very, very honored to be over here right now when thank you everybody for everything, and God bless America for having me here as the refugee from my country, Bosnia and Serbia. Thank you so much.
Chairperson Barkley and Brad, will you come out here for a photo, please? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Milan, for a wonderful story. I'm sure it brought tears to the eyes of a lot of us. I'd like to ask now for our members of various committees to come up and speak. First, we'll hear from Duncan Kovar, who is on the Transit Riders Advisory Committee.
Listen, how wonderful. Good morning.
Good morning.
Chairman Barkley, Brad, and to board members, it is really my honor and privilege to be here now 2 months in a row representing the riders It's just great. What a dream come true. We had a great meeting last month, and so let me give you a briefing on it. For the Rider Committee, we were briefed from T-BARTA about the BRT and across county, and we've been all invited to attend the charrette for the 62nd Street. That's coming up in March. I guess a lot of you know about it, and so it's perfect. Actually, what I was impressed this month was how the Riders Committee has been asked to do all of the features that we might do. In this case, we're asked to go outreach to T-BARTA, representing riders across at a regional level. The second thing that we did, and so that'll be coming up this month, bringing our insight into a regional question of the BRT. The second thing we did was internally, we took our vote on what initiative we wanted to do for the year, and to my surprise, we're going to carry forward what we did last year, which we called an ambassador. We really enjoyed standing up for PSTA within the community, doing outreach. We did pretty simple stuff last year, putting on yellow vests when there was a route change and we all got PSTA polo shirts. But this year we've decided to push it. We want to start going into our own condo communities. We want to really push PSTA. You guys, doesn't hurt, it would help. And so here's the second thing that Rider Committee can do is to do outreach. And so very proud to see our folks doing that. We're going to try and organize ourselves for social media, outreach, improving the images of riders. Well, you can read that later. What we're going to do to organize all that is just simply meet early before our next meeting and get our act together and do that for the year. We're calling it Ambassador 2.0 since we were ambassadors last year. There may be an additional meeting to do some kind of advocacy, maybe a letter campaign late in the year. The third thing we did was we were briefed on the new departure boards. There's a plan that maybe the data will be presented differently in the kiosks. Again, what a perfect thing to do for the riders, to represent all the riders. So here we did outreach, we're going to do local outreach, and now we worked as a focus group for the presentation from staff of how the data is going to look. And I was great to see in that room all of those experienced riders looking at the data. And then the last things we did was we got briefed from staff about the spring training, the routes, and again, the spring training, the Clearwater Beach, the sustainability plans. So each of us got to receive that front-end briefing, which is what the senior riders should do. So I was very proud of the committee this month, filling all of the roles that we're supposed to do for you guys. And so with that, respectfully submitted, our next meeting will be March 10th. Of course, you guys are always invited, and we're going to meet an hour early to put together a program, we hope, for social media, outreach. Are we going to put together some flyers and help? And I'm very proud of our committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, our local coordinating board, Brad.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So the local coordinating board met on February 11th over in the Ford Pinellas offices in downtown Clearwater. So since we don't have a board member reading this report, and we won't have a board member reading this report because there's no board member on the local coordinating board anymore, I did a little bit of research to find out, remind myself, and then I thought I'd give you all just a quick little reminder of what the local coordinating board is. And maybe somebody might be interested in being on that someday. State law requires that every county in Florida have a local coordinating board to oversee the distribution of state transportation disadvantaged funds. Transportation disadvantaged funds are provided by the state's Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged to each county's designated Community Transportation Coordinator, which is PSTA for Pinellas County. PSTA, as the Community Transportation Coordinator, must spend its TD dollars in accordance with the local coordinating board's adopted plan each year. And the LCB reviews PSTA's performance against that plan on a regular basis. Former PSTA board member Patty Johnson is still the chair of the LCB right now, and another former PSTA board member, Brian Scott, is the vice chair. Because PSTA is the CTC, we're not allowed to have a direct appointee on the LCB, but Ross Silvers on our staff is a non-voting member. This past month, the LCB received a presentation on Healthy Streets, an innovative community-based educational initiative to improve safety in Pinellas County streets for all users. Requested more information about PSTA's new TD grant-funded program that we just launched called TD Direct Connect. This is essentially a deeper discount, a $9 coupon for our first mile, last mile program with Uber and taxis for low-income TD customers rather than the typical $5 discount that everybody else gets. Last, they discussed Forward Pinellas' letter of opposition to state bills which would outlaw flashing yellow crosswalk signals, which are used extensively all over Pinellas County. The next LCB meeting will take place on May 19th at 9:15.
Okay, thank you very much, Brett. Commissioner Long is on her way, and I'm going to postpone the next two committee updates until her arrival. So our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. If there is no objection, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, excuse me a second, I've got a running local meeting, sorry. Disregard that, and Rachel, would you open the voting booth, please? Okay, has everybody voted? Okay, all right, that passes unanimously, thank you very much. All right, that brings us to our Commissioner Long just arrived.
Yes, I apologize, Mr.
That's quite
Chair.
all right. And I'd like to ask you to discuss the committee updates for Forward Pinellas and T-BARTA as soon as you're comfortable.
Okay, I apologize. All right, the Forward Pinellas Board met on February 12th of 2020, and adopted the Active Transportation Plan, which is our primary bicycle and pedestrian plan. The goal of the plan is to promote active transportation and define strategic connections for safe and efficient movement. The board received a presentation from FDOT on interchange design alternatives for the northern portion of US 19 from Tampa Road to alternate US 19. Oh, I'm a lot of breath, I apologize. Some fascinating options are being discussed to minimize the need for right-of-way. On our legislative agenda, Forward Pinellas is actively monitoring Senate Bill 1000 and House Bill 1371 concerning the use of rectangular rapid flashing beacons at mid-block crossings, forcing them to be removed or replaced with stops. Forward Pinellas has taken a position opposing these bills unless amended. Bike Your City is in Safety Harbor and Clearwater on Friday, March 13th. A group will meet at the Safety Harbor Waterfront Park at 7:30 a.m. The ride begins at 8. Pinellas County Sheriff's Office and Clearwater Police deputies will be escorting the cyclist. The Safe Streets Summit is on Tuesday, March 31st at the Epicenter at St. Petersburg College. The goal of the summit is to advance a discussion of how to make streets safer for everyone in Pinellas County. I think you all have a flyer about it at your places to RSVP. Okay. And
Catch your breath?
Do you want, I'm trying to catch my breath. It's been one of those mornings. Do you want me to do the T-BARTA report,
yes,
Mr.
please.
Chair?
Go ahead.
That one's a little more lengthy, so please all just bear with me.
Sure.
The T-BARTA Board unanimously approved a memorandum of understanding with PSTA to contribute up to $30,000 of T-Barter's federal grant funds to purchase the necessary onboard equipment for PSTA buses for PSTA and FDOT's upcoming I-275 Bus on Shoulder demonstration project, which is really exciting and the first of its kind, and once again puts PSTA on the front burner of new and innovative opportunities for our future. FDOT is going to install ramp meters at the on-ramps at I-275 at 38th Avenue and 54th Avenue in St. Petersburg that will safely stop general vehicles from entering the interstate when a bus is passing by on that shoulder. Each of PSTA's buses will have technology that communicates with the entrance ramp meters to signal when the bus is approaching. This demonstration project has a potential benefit to T-Barter's plan regional rapid transit, since the RRT will operate in the same corridor and could use the same technology. Brad, do you want to elaborate on that any further, or are there any discussions from anybody with regard to that? No? Okay.
Once it gets closer to starting, we'll have a full presentation on how it works.
Okay.
Really exciting.
Yeah.
We received an update from Ron Pierce at RSA. Our appropriation is currently in the House budget at $1.5 million. The funds will most likely be non-recurring and come out of the Transportation Trust Fund. Language will be needed to clarify on the way those funds will be dispersed. T-Barter's other legislative initiative is to allow the board to vote by telephone and to allow the mayors of Tampa and St. Pete to appoint alternates is also moving forward, but without the electronic voting option. It does allow the mayors to appoint an alternate from their city council to attend board meetings in their absence. Additionally, the bill would change T-Barter's quorum definition, and voting would be more like the PSTA boards. 7 members or 50% plus 1 will now be the quorum. A motion can be approved with the majority of those present at the meeting. The legislation also cleans up a lot of outdated requirements and moves the MPO chairs and coordinating committee out from underneath T-Barter and back to the MPOs. Hopefully, the legislature will approve these sensible changes. There were a number of really interesting presentations made. Walter Brueggemann from FDOT and Bill Jones from MCOR provided an overview of the MCOR's program. Christina Kopp from WSP presented an update on the Innovative Transit Technology Study, and Rahul Gupta from Deloitte presented on smart infrastructure and the future of mobility. All presentations can be found on the T-Barter website, but I would like to ask Mr. Chair if we could perhaps invite Rahul Gupta here to PSTA to share the information with us that he presented at T-Barter. It was absolutely stimulating and gives you a really broad brush idea of what's going on around the world in the world of transit agencies, new technologies, and the things that are happening all over the world. He had come to us from Dubai and was talking about some of the mobility things that are going on there. And you may remember me talking after I'd come back from an APTA conference about a year or so ago, that the FTA, the Federal Transit Authority, kept using the phrase mobility innovators. And she talked about how transit agencies were morphing into becoming mobility innovators rather than transit agencies. And I just thought that that was really, at first I found it difficult to understand. What does that mean, a mobility innovator? But now I've had a little more education on that subject matter, and it's the wave of the future, and I think it's something we all have to keep in mind as we move about and discuss public transportation options. Thank you, that's the end of my report, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
thank you very much, and we'll check into getting Mr. Gupta, if he's going to be local, to come and speak with us. It sounds very good, very
Yeah.
exciting.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we move to our only action item for this morning's meeting, which is to accept the annual CEO performance evaluation and approve the compensation adjustment as recommended by the PSTA Personnel Committee. As you know, as chair of PSTA, I also serve as chair of the Personnel Committee when it meets once each year. And this year, the committee met on February 18th and reviewed the evaluation, which is in each of your packets. Thanks to all the board members who turned in their evaluations. Serving on the Personnel Committee with me is Vice Chair Pat Gerard, Secretary Treasurer Gina Griscoll, and past Chair Janet Long, as well as Commissioner Darden Rice. The committee noted several things. First of all, the very strong performance this past year by the entire agency. Secondly, Brad's specific performance. And thirdly, we reviewed other transit CEO salaries at comparable transit systems. For these reasons, the committee unanimously voted to recommend a 3.5% increase in Brad's compensation. I'd like to say a few words about why I believe this was important for us to approve this compensation adjustment. But first, I'm going to ask any of my fellow Personnel Committee members if they would like to make comments and a motion. Commissioner Long, do you have any additional comments?
I can't believe you even had to ask. Yes, I wanted to just share with my colleagues that the important thing for me as we were engaged in this robust discussion was parity among peers in our own region, and the fact that PSTA has moved so much further into the future on the newest and latest technologies that we've been able to take advantage of. And part of that is brought to us because of Brad's experience with serving on the boards at the national level with APTA and several other, I don't even know how many other boards he serves on, but the fact of the matter is, I think if we are interested in keeping Brad at the helm of this organization, and I'd like to think that you all agree with me that he has put together a pretty strong and excellent team of folks around him to support him and the agency. If we want to keep him, it's important that we stay on parity with his peers in the region. And we're the only transit system in the region that actually has a real live CEO at the moment. The Lynx system in Orlando, that position's been vacant for quite a while. We all know what happened to Hart over in Hillsborough County. And to further information, we have a fairly new CEO at T-BARTA that has 10 employees who is making a lot more than Brad is, number one. And number two, Brad has 600-plus employees that he is responsible for in this agency, and I think that needs to be accommodated. That said, I am also sensitive to our budget constraints, and I have had lengthy conversations with our CFO to ensure that we're, Brad, to receive this increase as we have recommended from the Personnel Board, that our budget can accommodate that. And I also think it would be wise for us to, I would like to make a motion for, and then we can open it for discussion if that's appropriate, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
That we recommend a 3% increase for Brad and give him a 0.5% additional amount of money, given that at the end of this fiscal year, we are in a solid place. And that would be my motion.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to second.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to ask Commissioner Rice if you have any comments.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And as a member of the Personnel Committee, I was certainly swayed by Commissioner Long's support for a discretionary 0.5 increase, keeping in mind the competitiveness of the salaries of other CEOs. But I did just want to share a little bit more of my thinking that went into it and perhaps suggest that we need a policy. The evaluations that were distributed to board members, there was a tabulation sheet and there was an opportunity to write down the percentage wage increase that we recommended as individuals based on performance. And I was glad to see that overall, I think Brad Miller rated very high in his performance evaluation. And because he rated very high in his performance evaluation, I thought it was fair to take the next step to consider a discretionary increase, taking into consideration how his salary is stacking up compared to other peer agencies. But I do think that we should keep the performance review separate from those discretionary considerations. And I would suggest that perhaps that the Personnel Committee not review discretionary increases based on keeping up with other agencies. I don't think that's something that we need to do year by year. That's something that we can revisit every 2 to 3 years. But having said that, you know, I'm very comfortable with recommending what ends up being a total of a 3.5% increase. I would just like to say, from a measure of policy, I'd really like to keep the performance evaluation separate, and that it would really require an outstanding performance evaluation rating in order for the Personnel Committee to then feel empowered to take the next step with a discretionary increase. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess my motion would be to maybe bring that back to the Personnel Committee and maybe bring back a policy for the board to adopt.
Is that a friendly amendment that you would agree to, Commissioner Long?
No, because I think it's two different subject matters, and I'd like to consider them separately, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Commissioner Driscoll, do you have any comments? No?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd just like to add, from my perspective, in reference to the kinds of challenges that we're seeing across our industry, and especially with regard to what's happened across the bay from us, I'm very appreciative of Brad's strong ethical commitment and the collaborative way that he has actually operated PSTA. And he's put an outstanding team together of very high-quality individuals to work with him. And the result is that we have had great improvement in all aspects of PSTA's performance. And that's why I support the 3.5% increase that we have talked about. Brad, would you like to say anything?
Oh, maybe there's some other comments.
Pardon me?
There's some other board members who want.
Oh, okay, board members, I'm sorry. Go ahead, yes, down the line here. Okay, go ahead. I'm going to look both sides here, okay.
How do I turn this?
You're on.
Well, I just had a comment I'd like to make. First of all, I think Brad has been doing a great job, and I'm certainly not trying to be critical. I just wonder why the board makes a recommendation individually for average percent pay increase, and now we are thinking about giving him a full percent more than what the board recommended with his evaluation. And then there was Mrs. Rice saying that we compared his salaries with other CEOs throughout the country or the county, well, I don't know what any of those are. Somebody make a list of what 10 cities are that are equivalent to Pinellas County and show us what their salaries are and compare Brad's to theirs, and then that might change my opinion. But I think that we should go with the average percent that the board recommended on their evaluations, which is almost a full percent below the 3.5% that's been recommended. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Commissioner Cox.
To address that, Mr. Bennett, Commissioner Bennett, it is in our packet here today, the comparisons to the other transit agencies that are close by here. It's in our packet here today on the computer.
So I guess if we're going to make that comment, I would like a copy of the packet sitting at my desk prior to the meeting every day, every time I come.
Okay, I understand. But
Because last night when it came to me in my house, I couldn't print it, and I usually can never print it. It's in some format different than what my printer and my telephone accept. So I'd like it here at my desk every time.
I can show you here. I can bring it to you.
One person at a time, go ahead.
Yeah.
Commissioner Cox. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Welch?
Yeah, I had the same comment as Mr. Cox, that information is in the packets.
Thanks for your help. I'm the new old guy, so
Yeah.
help me out. Yeah, right. And so I agree with Commissioner Long and Commissioner Rice's comments. The only question I have, if you could refresh me on the budget forecast for PSTA, when do we move into a deficit situation? What year is that?
Okay. All right.
Second question related to that is, we've adopted 3.5% in our budget. I see we have budget assumption 3.5, so that is in our budget?
Yes.
Okay. So that was the only other question I had. When do we go into a deficit situation in our budget?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I had one other, I'm sorry. What was the last increase for our unionized and non-unionized employees? What did they receive?
Okay. Well, the budget included 3.5% for all employees.
Okay.
And then the way my evaluation that the board has now completed, and all of the non-union or administrative employees of PSTA, which is about 100, is through the performance scorecard system, where the board adopts goals, and then part of the rating is due to performance, and part of it is subjective due to the manager, or in the case, the PSTA board, and the sum total of that then can be subjective increases based on their performance up to 3.5% for the admin employees. The union contract that we have today has different ranges. I think it averages about 3.1%, but depending on the steps and levels that you are at the company, theirs is automatic based on seniority. I think we budget 3.5%, and I think it's somewhere right around that range is what it actually costs PSTA in total. As far as the overall PSTA budget picture, I think we're doing very well. The last 2 years, we have adopted budgets that call for the use of a very small amount of reserves, about $1.7 million. But last year, we didn't actually use any of that. We saved, thanks to the staff's work, we saved more than $2 million. We actually added to our reserves that now, as of the last Finance Committee, was over $40 million in the bank. So we're doing very well. The budget that we're in right now was adopted back last September, assuming we might use some of those reserve funds. But so far, through almost 6 months of the year, we're about $1.3 million to the good. So it's looking very well for, again, not having to use those reserves by the end of the year.
Okay. So we don't have a date when reserves will be exhausted?
we're starting to put together our, budget for next year. Our forecasts call for us really substantially to start eating into the reserves next year, but I don't have any, we'll have an update in a couple of months on that.
Okay, so the forecast has gotten better since I left.
It
Because
has.
we were looking at 21, 22, I think. So it's out in the future, undetermined at this point.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Long?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the important pieces of information that I neglected to share with all of you is that the day that we had our personnel meeting, our chief financial officer got notice that we were going to be receiving $165,000 as a reimbursement from the work that we did during Hurricane Irma. And that is unanticipated funds that will more than take care of the increase that we are recommending for our CEO. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right. If there are no other comments, then we have a motion and a second. Oh, we have more. Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I noted this last year when we talk about a percent here or a percent there on Brad's salary, that we're talking about a couple $1,000s in the grand scheme of our total budget.
Yes.
And so it's not a lot. But what it does do is it speaks to the taxpayers, it speaks to our community, and it also speaks to Mr. Miller about how we value him and his service. So I certainly think that a increase is warranted. I struggle with noting that seniors in our community that are on Social Security received a 1.6% increase for this year. As Commissioner Bennett noted, our average was 2.3, and if we also go by the tabulated score, Mr. Miller received 95.5% of 100%. So if it was budgeted at 3.5%, and he only received 95% of the score, he's at 3.34 as the raise. So I think there's an opportunity for us to select a number closer to what Mr. Bennett was saying, the average. If we want to add a bonus feature in for performance going forward, I think that's certainly reasonable. But these are the other items that are, I think, part of the thought process as well.
All right, any other comments? Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the 3.5% increase. Is there any public comment at this time? Okay, seeing none, then Rachel, would you open the voting booth, please?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask you a question for clarity?
Yes, go ahead.
3.5%.
It is 3.5%.
Bifurcated any means, or is it one?
Well, the Commissioner Long and Commissioner Rice suggested that the 0.5% would be as a special bonus at this time. Is that correct, Commissioner Long?
No,
No?
it's a 3% increase with a 0.5% predicated on our making sure that we are in a good place at the end of the year with our budget.
Okay. Is that clarification okay with you, Commissioner Welch?
So
When is it effective?
my suggestion would be to action that would be that it would be a 3% adjustment right now, or at the next pay period, or whatever. And then a 0.5% in September, or when the board adopts the next budget, we have the next budget, so the 0.5 will kick in September.
So let's just make sure that Commissioner Long is that the motion that you
Yes.
intended? And then I don't remember who made the second on that
I did.
motion. And is that acceptable?
Yes.
All right.
And that's the motion on the floor.
Okay. All right. And would you open the voting? Okay. So 10-3 is the final vote. Everyone's voted so far? Okay. All right. 10-3 is the final vote. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner, go ahead.
I make a motion
Commissioner Rice.
to refer to the performance review, excuse me, the Personnel Committee, a discussion to discuss a policy regarding performance reviews going forward. And again, another reason I'm bringing this up is another reason why we don't want to miscommunicate by seeming to conflate these issues is it sends a message to other employees that that we're making pay decisions just based on comparison to other peer occupations in the system, and that this would be predicated on a satisfactory performance review and predicated on a larger look at the budget. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, all right.
Yes, she made a motion. and
Okay.
there was a second.
All right,
And you
So-
need to ask for public comment.
okay. Again, any public comment on this motion? All right, let's open the voting again, please. Okay, everybody's in?
Would it be possible for someone to tell me what that motion was? And was that on the agenda prior to us coming here today, so that we could vote on it today?
It's germane to the discussion.
Yeah.
And the motion, as far as I understand, is for the Personnel Committee to look at creating a policy that would, that the board would be considered at a future date to look at the performance evaluation process and how it relates to compensation, so that performance is separated from market adjustments based on other people's, other transit system salaries, that kind of thing.
So just to clarify, Personnel Committee meets once a year. So this would be for our next year's evaluation process.
We could call a special meeting sometime.
Okay, if you want to call a special meeting?
Yeah.
Prior to next year's meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right, so now has everyone voted?
Yes.
Okay, all right, passes 13-0, thank you very much. Brad, would you please give us an update on various reports that should be evaluated at this point?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. In your packet are the performance reports for the month of January. You'll see on our January operating statistics that now we have incorporated safety and security stats each month right into that, and then we'll provide a more quarterly detailed report to you all on that. As far as future meeting subjects, I have a number of future things going on. First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation to the PSTA Finance Committee for doing a great job so far in being our auditing firm selection committee. And for Commissioner Bennett for going above and beyond and already doing his review, even though he wasn't supposed to. But for the folks that are not on the audit committee, the state legislature created a new law that the finance committee has to serve as the selection committee for your auditing firm. And they're doing that good work. As Commissioner Long said, I do serve on a number of national committees, and I like to bring you all along with me to some of those committees. So there's a number of trips in the coming days. Later today, I'm flying up to Washington, D.C. by myself to serve on a committee that I'm excited about because I serve on a panel that is writing a report that I'm sure you will be excited. It'll be a bestseller on Amazon this summer when it gets published on this concept that Commissioner Long that T. Barta talked about, this new mobility. And with all of the new technologies like scooter and Uber and Lyft and bike share, air taxis, new things invented every day, Hyperloop. How is a public transit system supposed, what is the best way that communities can organize their mobility around, and what is the role that public transit systems play in that? And there's a lot of really good panel members with me, so I'm excited about that. Then next week, we are headed for our final trip of the year, hopefully, to Tallahassee. And I want to thank Commissioner Long and Commissioner Albritton for joining me on that trip to Tallahassee. And then 2 weeks later, we'll be going to Washington, D.C. again for the APTA Legislative Conference. And Chair Barkley and Commissioner Long will be joining me on that. We've had some success already this week on our Dunedin Toronto Blue Jays spring break trolley service. Canadians are packing the trolleys to go watch their Blue Jays. If everyone in Pinellas could be from Canada, we'd be great. Then on Sunday, we started our annual spring break partnership with the city of Clearwater, where trolleys, the Jolly Trolley and PSTA trolleys will be free starting on Sunday for 2 months between downtown Clearwater and Clearwater Beach. So don't worry about driving across that bridge. You can just park at City Hall or down there in Coachman Park and ride for free. If you noticed, right here at PSTA, the electric charging station is moving along with some construction. You saw a beautiful, if you watch Bay News 9, you saw our chair giving an update on that, talking very technical to Chuck Henson. I was very proud of him. About the induction charging station that's being installed there. That should be open, and we hope to have an event an electrifying event, probably around the 1st of May. Want to recognize one of our board members, Commissioner Schulman, who was appointed by PSTA to be PSTA's appointee to the Pinellas Schools, or the Fort Pinellas School Safety Committee? School Transportation Safety Committee, and now he has risen to the illustrious heights of chair, I understand.
Not attend a meeting?
Oh. Are you not the chair?
I'm not aware of being the chair.
Oh, okay, I got my information wrong.
Or maybe
I don't. I'll let you know.
You might have gotten in there since you.
But I understand that we will be making a presentation about a potential UPass or student pass program for Pinellas County Schools, something that some of us have been working a long time with the school district on, and I'm glad that committee is helping us maybe move that forward. Next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, March 3rd, is our third Feeding Tampa Bay Transit-oriented food bank, which you have a little flyer at your places. And a number of you have joined me at those previously. You're all welcome to join me next week. It'll be right here in the parking lot, just like the others were. Then the hits just keep coming. On a week from Sunday, on March 8th at 9 o'clock, is our annual Best of the Bay Tampa Bay-wide bus rodeo competition, where our bus operators and mechanics teams compete. This year, the rotation brings us to Manatee County. PSTA hosted it last year, and PSTA, Hart, Pasco County, Manatee, and Sarasota all will participate. The winners go on to the state rodeo, which will be in Orlando this year, and the winners of that go to the international rodeo to be held this year in San Antonio. Last but not least, as you saw in my email last week, sometimes the most unfortunate events bring out the very best in us. Last Thursday afternoon, a PSTA employee was walking right in front of the lobby here when he collapsed on the ground. Our really true heroes, Trish Collins, our HR director, Shelby Harris, Jennifer Chen, and Calvin Davis from our operations group just happened to be nearby, and they amazingly jumped right into action. so fast that I'm grateful to know that he's in stable condition. He's still at the hospital, but he's doing better. Their actions saved his life. Shelby went and called 911. Jennifer and Calvin performed CPR on him, and Trish ran and got the AED defibrillator. We should all know. It's right out there in the lobby. And together, they saved his life. We will hopefully have a recognition when he gets out of the hospital with these great people. So look forward to that. I don't think they're here. But that concludes my
Okay,
future updates.
all right, thank you very much, I appreciate that. Is there any other business that yes, Commissioner Long?
Yes, and I apologize, Mr. Chair, if
Yes.
this was brought up before I got here so late. But Brad, I'm curious if you could give the board an update on where we are with our BRT money from Washington.
Sure.
I think that might be important for our public that are watching to know, since we have received several emails that are incorrect.
Thank you. So, as you know, or may know, PSTA is moving very successfully on with the Central Avenue Bus Rapid Transit Project, which will be the very first rapid transit project in Tampa Bay's history to actually receive, it's the furthest along any project has ever been, and we're very hopeful that it will be the first project to receive federal funds, federal New Starts funding, hopefully very soon. The project is at 100% design. It has met an unlimited number of milestones that the federal government puts in front of us to accomplish. It is under construction. The first part of the BRT is under construction out at St. Pete Beach at the County Beach Park. The board already ordered the buses. Then the next step is to get an allocation announcement by the federal government where they will announce an allocation of funds to our project. They'll probably announce a number of projects across the country for allocation decisions. The president's budget and the accompanying, it's called the New Starts report that just came out a week ago, that you've probably seen some emails about, didn't have any project. I mean, the president has not recommended any funding for any project. He hasn't done that in the 3 years he's been in office. That was not, we never anticipated that we would be named or not named or anything like that. It wasn't really part of the thing. We're waiting on this allocation announcement. The current administration waits until projects are complete or ready to go, shovel ready, and then they make these allocation announcements. Commissioner Long had a really good conversation with the FTA administrator right before Christmas, and she indicated, I don't know exactly, but that it would be in early in the year. I mean, we're now end of February, and they haven't made any announcements. So when we've asked the feds, they say that, well, they've been really busy. There's been things going on in Washington, D.C. Well, you know, that's going to continue to be the case. So we have a whole plan that we've been putting in, we have been implementing with our federal lobbying team to keep the pressure on and let them know of our great progress we've made on the project. So I'm very optimistic that in the coming weeks, hopefully we will receive this allocation announcement, and then we'll be off and running.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
I'm not sure, are we supposed to use the light when we want to ask questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, just quickly, Brad, I appreciate you adding the security information in the stats. What's the difference between a security incident and a severe incident? What's the threshold?
Okay. Security incident on your report is every incident. Every incident, it really distinguishes it from an accident, you know, where the bus gets into an accident. As an incident is anything out of the ordinary that happens on the bus. That could happen just between two passengers, or It could be someone throwing up on the bus or something like that, or it could be something involving the driver. And then you see that separated. Total is everything. Then with drivers, we are now recording it specifically if it involves one of our employees. A severe incident is a subcategory of all the incidents that involves a physical assault, a verbal assault, or the presence of a weapon. Sometimes our bus operators report they see a weapon. They see a weapon on the bus, and so we record that as severe, even if it's not really being used or anything like that. As you can see, I think we recorded 6 incidents in January, which is up. All of those are verbal assaults. Knock on wood, so far we have not this fiscal year had a physical assault. But we are seeing an increased number of verbal interactions. We think largely because we've asked the drivers in light of what happened over at Hart to really be vigilant about letting us know about everything. So we sort of think it's an increased reporting mainly, but it's really helpful information for us to track and monitor.
Thank you, Brad.
Okay, any other comments? All right, so let me just ask for any board comments. Start with Commissioner Sable, please, and just work around if anybody has comments. Turn your light on, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Brad, where are we? Were we still talking to Manatee about the MOU? Do you know where we are? With Manatee County, the MOU with them that we were gonna try to get together.
Yes.
Any update?
So there's a service that started out as a van, but now they use a bus. Manatee County comes up, I'm not sure if it's every day.
Yeah, it's Monday through Friday.
Okay,
Twice a day.
with a route that comes from the Bradenton to the VA hospital. And it does make some stops in Pinellas County, and my understanding is the majority of ridership is inside of Pinellas. It is folks just taking it, from the stops along 34th Street to the VA. So Commissioner Cox had asked that we reach out to Manatee County and see about a partnership. Maybe we could enhance that service or run it both directions or run it more frequently. So I've reached out to them. Obviously it's a funding situation. They got some special grant funding to provide the service, so they're reviewing that as well.
Okay. So we're still working on it. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner, any other commission comments, both sides? Okay, Commissioner Albritton?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Brad Miller for his great job at the helm of that PSTA, and look forward to our trip next week to Tally.
Okay. Turn your light on. Commissioner Rice?
Today's meeting with our presentation on the Driver of the Year to Milan Rakovic was just so beautiful and so compelling. I just started to cry at a certain point. It was just really, just a really beautiful presentation to someone who certainly deserves accolades and recognition. And I think that it probably goes a long way to helping to see our employees and our bus drivers as people, as fully human, and I think that's an important part of safety as well.
Yeah.
So, thank you. And thank you to Milan.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to recognize myself for a few minutes, just to say this has been a little bit of an unusual meeting, and part of that's because I'm new at this game, but also because we care greatly about the service that Brad Miller has done over the past few years to really put PSTA on the map. We are doing many innovative things. We are doing tremendously with regard to working on our budgetary situation. and we are doing tremendous things with regard to moving the BRT forward and other innovative ideas. So I think that's very important, and I'd just like to say thanks for all the comments and all the input from committee members to agree to the increase for Brad, and also to we'll streamline somewhat an improved format for next year when we work together on the Personnel Committee. I'd also like to congratulate Milan. I too was greatly moved by his report, and congratulations to him for a job well done and consistent performance for 23 years for PSTA. I'd like to welcome my friend and former mentor, Ken Welch, to the committee. He has really been tremendously supportive of PSTA for many years, both on and off the committee, and I want to congratulate him for getting back onto the committee. I was pleased that I had an opportunity to participate in the brief video with Channel 9. We need to do more things like that to let our public know what's going on at PSTA. We are an innovative agency. We're more than a bus company. We're an innovative transportation network, and we need to let that word get out. So one of my roles is going to be to try to do more public knowledge of what we are actually doing. Thank you for Commissioner Long's clarification with regard to the negative and false input that we've all received. I'm glad that's going to get resolved. Lastly, I just wanted to say I have, as a commissioner and now as chair, had an opportunity to ride our buses perhaps more sporadically than many other members of the board. But over the last couple of weeks, for several reasons, I, along with my wife, and in one case, my wife and her relatives who came to visit, ridden the Looper. And I recently rode this past Saturday, I rode the 34 and the 52. And the 34 was a hybrid. I want to say that's a really nice style of bus, very quiet and very well operated. And also I rode a 2006 bus on the 52. And Henry and his team have done a super job. That bus rode like it was brand new. And I think that's terrific, that we can keep buses on the road that should have been long in the graveyard, but they're running, and they're running well. And I think we're doing a terrific job. One of the buses did not have a shield, the other did, but I think it's important that the shields continue the project to get that completed for all our vehicles, and looking forward to that being completed. But we are doing everything we can to help our drivers be safe and to make sure that our buses are serving the public well. And I'm proud to be a member of the PSTA board. Thank you. Any other comments? If not, our next meeting is March 25th at 9 a.m. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Great. That's good. That's good.
No.
Have a good one.
You can.
You going to power up today? I saw that.